So what we know about Breslov, when people think of Breslov and they think of Rebbe Nachman, they think of Simcha, they think of Amuna, right? They think of Hisbodedus. We think of all those things. But do we think about calmness, even-temperedness, anger management? We actually don't. But we really should, because Rebbe Nachman in Sifos Haran himself said that when he was younger, he was quick to lose his temper. And he worked on it very seriously in order to manage it. Why? Because in Judaism, the Torah tells us very explicitly in Pirkei Avos and in other places that having a temper is a really bad thing. It's akin to idol worship, which is right in line with this week's Parsha, Yisro. And Yisro, okay, was the world's greatest idol worshiper. And when he converted to Judaism, we know how great Judaism is. If we want to ask Yisro, he can say all the idol worship in the world was nothing compared to the Torah. All the anger in the world is nothing compared to the Torah either. And what I'd like to do before we even begin the semester is discuss what anger is, because we need to have a definition to move forward. So Pirkei Avos tells us that there are 4 types of people, okay, who have anger, 4 types of temperaments. The first is someone who is quick to become angry and quick to calm down. And his gain, okay, is outweighed by his loss. One who is slow to become angry and slow to come down, his loss is outweighed by his gain. One who's slow to become angry and quick to come down is a chassid, he's a pious person. And one who is quick to become angry and slow to come down, he's a rasha. That's the worst. What kind of person is slow to calm down? Someone who holds a grudge. When we think of anger and we think of temper, we think of explosions and yelling and screaming. Interestingly enough, okay, in general, most people who scream and yell are the quick to calm down type. But people who hold that grudge and who release their anger in jabs and barbs, those are the people who are hanging on to anger. So when we define anger and we define temperament, we know we're aiming for an ideal, which is to not get so upset about things, and if we do get upset, to calm down quickly. If you do that, you're a chassid, okay? You're on the right track. However, we have to examine ourselves in order to understand if we have anger, because anger doesn't always manifest in screaming and yelling. And for women especially, and this is a women's class, we know that for women, often anger is pushed down, it's repressed, and it comes out in other ways. Because women are taught that they shouldn't scream and yell. It's a cultural thing. It's the right thing. Nobody should scream and yell. Men shouldn't either. So women express anger in different ways. Now, what's interesting is that everybody who's been learning Breslov a while knows about Rebbe Nachman's bechinas, right? A bechina is a concept or an aspect of a concept that he relates to another bechina. So one thing is an aspect of something else. One concept is related to something else, okay? So we know, for example, amuna, faith, is related to emes, to truth. That's one thing. Okay, Amunah is also related to the land of Israel. Rebbe Nachman's always setting up pairs and triples of things that are related. Anger, okay, is related to a lack of certain qualities. Anger is related to depression, which is a lack of joy. Okay. Anger is related to guilt. Okay. Guilt is another one. What's guilt? Guilt isn't you feel bad about something, you want to make reparations. Guilt is you're stewing inside about something, you feel bad about it, but you don't know where to go with it. You can't do anything productive with it. Okay? It's like anger turned inside out. Depression also is like anger turned inside out. Very often people who are depressed are angry at people around them, or they're angry at themselves. Okay? So I mentioned these two things because they're fairly common. And one of the beautiful things about working on anger, working with Rebbe Nachman's Bechinas, is that problems fall like dominoes. When you tackle one thing, very often it knocks over related issues. We know this, everybody knows this, when we work on Amuna, we find we naturally become happier. Okay? I know everybody in this class knows this. Okay? When we work on Simcha, we naturally find that when we're tolerant, okay, our faith goes up and so on and so forth. When we work on the issue of tackling our temperament and really getting to the root of anger, other things fall into place too. Depression usually fades, guilt fades, relationships improve, and you'll be amazed. Most therapists and psychologists will tell you that a lot of what's going on with women, I'm speaking specifically about women, is that they haven't dealt with unresolved anger. And the way to deal with it is part of what we're going to be discussing in this class. And there shouldn't be shame attached to this process of discovery. Okay. So what happens is, you know, I can come across a million things that I'm preparing for this class and say, oh, wow, I think I'm holding on to that there, and this is describing me. And if we experience toxic shame, okay, we're not going to be able to pick ourselves up to follow the Rebbe's advice. The Rebbe himself, again, like he said in Rabbi Nachman's wisdom, okay, that I said at the beginning, he himself struggled with this and he worked on himself to overcome his temper, to improve his temperament. And he gives us a glimpse into that. And you know who else did? David HaMelech, King David, also worked on his temper. And we know, okay, we know that the great tzaddikim, they share their flaws with us. They share them because it shows us that we too can work on ourselves and become greater. Okay, now, what we're going to begin with, the first text we're going to use is the Aleph-Bet book, which is Sefer Hamidos. Does anybody have that book? Anybody? I want to see if anybody in class actually owns the book. Yes, okay, Shalom Michal. Okay, Simcha Yael. Okay. Sefer Hamidos is a deceptively simple book. Later on in the semester, we're going to take a break and we're going to do another book workshop and we're going to examine this Sefer because it's fascinating. Rebbe Nachman began writing it when he was a boy. And it's a collection of over 2,600, I think, a lot of aphorisms, okay, sayings that are rooted in very holy sources, in Zohar HaKodesh, in Talmud, and so on and so forth. The source for these aphorisms can be found, even if the aphorisms can't be found directly in other places. And this collection of sayings is given to us by the Rebbe, so we can use them and we can begin to sort of work on ourselves with them. And when something strikes us and we can relate to it, we can then investigate deeper, okay? So in the same way we use Likutei Eitzos, the advice book, which we talked about last book workshop, we use that to go straight into the lessons. and to, we get a taste of something, we explore a saying or a quote, and then we want to go further. We can use this that way too. Okay, so tonight we're going to begin with kas, anger, in the Aleph-Bet book. Okay, so we're going to start with number 1. When a person keeps from getting angry, his enemies will have no control over him. Okay. Why is that? So we're going to mainly discuss the pshat, the simple meaning. When there are other things that I can pull into it, I will, but we should just concentrate on the simple meaning. When a person is angry, they are imbalanced and they can't think clearly. And when you can't think clearly, you're weak. And your enemies can unsettle you. But even in the pshat, the enemies, we can say with a safe bet, generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, refers to the enemies within, the Yetzer Hara, okay? Our own negative inclination. When you're angry, your negative inclination can take a hold of you and defeat you. It's like being drunk. Okay, you can be drunk with anger. You're blinded by your anger. It's such a compelling force that you can destroy yourself with it. Okay, so the Rebbe says we have to work on keeping from getting angry. Then our Yetzer Hara isn't going to be able to control us. How do you keep from getting angry? So we have to believe that every single thing that happens to us in this world comes from Hashem. Everything. And that even if someone else insults us, does something that makes us angry, jealous, whatever, okay, even if that person has free will, still, it's a paradox, but still we have to believe it comes from Hashem and that it's a message from Hashem. And if we believe this, then logic dictates that we would have to get angry with Hashem for everything that's happening to us. And if we're angry with Hashem, we have other issues to work out. And by the way, some people are. And those issues can be worked out too. And we're going to talk about that because some people feel that they've been dealt a raw deal in life. Okay? Their emunah is weakened. But thank God the Rebbe will address that as well as we go on. Okay, any questions about aphorism number 1? Okay, no. Okay, so we're going to continue with number 3. A person's anger brings him disgrace. Okay. Again, when you act out of anger, you often do foolish things. Okay, because your Yetzer Hara is in control. Which is why the expression is we are beside ourselves with anger. We've heard that expression. It's literally like we're outside of our better self and we're on some kind of crazy autopilot. And we make foolish decisions and we're going to flub things up, definitely flounder. Okay? All right. Okay, we're going to skip. Okay, we're going to go to 5. Anyone who gets angry loses his wisdom and his foresight. Even if he's destined for greatness, he loses that as well. Okay? So again, the Rebbe's telling us everything that we're going to lose if we're struggling with anger. In this case, our wisdom, our knowledge, our intelligence, our ability to weigh things. Okay? Example. Road rage. It's everywhere, okay? People literally lose their entire seichel because somebody cuts in front of them with another car. They go bananas over this, okay? You lose everything. All right. Here's positive that I want to share with you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves you if you keep from getting angry, and if you don't insist on getting revenge. He loves you for this, because we know Hashem Tzaddik, Hashem is righteous. And when we emulate him, okay, because Hashem's only angry very slight teensy millionth of a second at a certain time of day. That's when all his anger takes place. The rest of the time, okay, and that's in the Zohar. The rest of the time, he's not angry. Okay, he only wants to love and to give. Okay, so when we're emulating Hashem and we say, you know what, that person, I'm not going to get back at them, and we restrain ourselves, Hashem adores us because he knows that it's hard for us, but he also knows that we're emulating him. And when we don't get angry with our brothers and sisters, okay, when we don't have that anger against them, when we really purge that, nothing gives Hashem more nachas. If you're a parent, you know when your kids are fighting, it's awful, it's painful to have brothers and sisters fighting, right? Okay. Okay. Any questions so far? We're going to race through these tonight, and then we're going to go in depth, by the way, in some Likutei Moran, okay, soon. So we're going to get some in-depth, interesting things about anger. Okay, there are no questions. I'm going to continue. Okay, if somebody's on Facebook that's watching this, I can't see you and I can't answer your questions. Only in the Breslov campus setup. Okay, this is an important one. The life of a hot-tempered person is no life at all. All the punishments of Gehinnom control him, rule over him, as do, even worse, the evil forces. Okay. So if we can purge ourselves of anger, life automatically moves up. We free ourselves from judgment. And I want to emphasize here that even as we're racing to get as many of these in as a beginning to the semester, it's important to keep in mind that we have to really examine ourselves. We have to reflect on ourselves and see, do we have this trait? How does it express itself? How can I remove it? But Rebbe Nachman gives us a gift. If we're going to focus on our flaws, and anger is certainly a flaw, and most of us have had anger, will have anger, or do have anger. Okay? It's a flaw. The amazing thing is Rebbe says, only focus on it for a short time during the day, briefly, make it part of your hisbodedus, do your tshuva, and the rest of the day, the other 23 hours, be totally besimcha, totally joyful. This is the key to doing effective tshuva and not driving yourself bananas. And I was discussing this with Yossi Katz today, that this topic keeps coming up. The only way you can stay sane in this world is if you limit critical self-examination. It doesn't mean you're burying your head in the sand. It doesn't mean you're discarding any idea of Musar. It means that you're only saying, right now, I can't look at this issue. It's not time for me to make that part of my hisbodedus. I'm going to be doing that at 9 o'clock tonight, or I'm going to be doing that at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Now's not the time. I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm only going to dwell on moving forward with joy, or getting my work done, or eating my lunch. Okay? This is so important. Whenever we talk about a topic, last semester we were talking about Emunah, we always want to focus on it, but we don't really want to spend too much time focusing on even an important negative to get rid of, like anger. Limit the time, okay? Questions or comments? I'm not having a lot of discussion tonight. Okay, that's fine. All right. Okay. Oh, here's one, very practical. Getting angry after eating is physically harmful. Okay, it interferes in the digestion. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't eat when you're angry before you're eating anyway. You know, the Talmud tells us that a person shouldn't speak while they have food in their mouths, while they're eating. Okay? It's very practical. It gives us a lot of important advice. Rebbe Nachman says that this is going to make you sick. So try to avoid the mixture of food and anger. Calm down first. Okay? All right. I think we're going to skip this. Well, I guess we'll go right to it. 15. A woman's anger destroys her home. Okay, specifically speaking to us here. Okay. Not just displays of temper. Again, yes, some women scream and yell. I'm a screamer. Okay, that's just my nature. But a lot of women don't. A lot of women hold it in. And it comes out in a slow burn. And it comes out sometimes in vindictiveness, sometimes in cruel words. It doesn't always come out just explosive and over. It will destroy your relationships. It will destroy not only your relationship with your spouse, it will destroy your relationship with your kids, and it will destroy your relationship with yourself, and it will taint the home. So this, again, is something that we want to examine and get rid of. And we can do it. Every single one of us can get rid of it, because the Rebbe himself, he gives us the example. He did it. And he says you can do it too. Just work on it. Okay. So this one I actually asked about number 17, because we're just skipping, because we won't have time to do all of these and get through everything we need to this semester. Eating bread for breakfast is a segula for controlling anger. Rebbe Nachman tells us this. Okay, so a segula means it can't translate as a treasure or a charm, something that people do to create a specific desired effect. So some people daven at a mukah in order to find a shidduch. Okay. Generally, we hear the emphasis in Breslov, the emphasis of Rebbe Nachman is to daven. That's like our basic segula. Talk to Hashem. That's what we need to affect change in our lives. But there are tried and true segulas. So why is eating bread for breakfast? So what happens when we eat bread? Anybody? Is it the new format? People used to chat. Okay. So when we eat bread for breakfast, okay, somebody's typing. Michal, good. She's going to, hi, Michal. You're going to tell us what's going on. Okay, you need to bench. Exactly. We need to wash. Okay, then we eat, and then we need to bench. When we bench, if we're paying attention, we're going to go through blessings, okay, that will psychologically remind us of everything that Hashem bestows upon us. Not just mazon, not just sustenance and food, okay, the Holy Land of Israel and Parnassa and everything good in this life and the next. What also happens is, and this was interesting, I just learned this, is everything we do creates a malach, which we all know, creates an angel, which everybody knows. But when we bench in the morning, which is a mitzvah that creates a positive angel, those angels that we create with benching stay with us all day, and they protect us all day long. And if you want another term rather than angels, you could use positive force fields of energy, or we're just putting that good energy out there. And again, whatever we focus on, we build. So by saying all the blessings and benching, it's amazing The rest of the day, okay, is blessed. A lot of people do not leave their house without pas shacharis, a morning bread meal. Some people are very, very specific and serious about it. It's also a segula for parnasa. But meanwhile, it's also a segula for controlling anger. And I was thinking about why, and I couldn't find a source for how this would work. But I think because it's like an emunah bomb, okay? Benching everything's in there. How can you possibly get angry after you spend, hopefully it takes at least 5 minutes, okay? At least 5 minutes thanking Hashem for everything, acknowledging everything, looking at everything. So Shulamit Michal says, okay, so she has a good question. Why wouldn't this apply to all meals throughout the day? It would, but the morning's the first meal, okay? It's the first meal of the day. And so therefore, beginnings are very important. And as the beginning, what's in the beginning is as the end goes. So if you start your day off right, the end of the day has a better chance of being right. Rebbe Nachman says this Kabbalistic concept, the end is wedged into the beginning, or the beginning is wedged into the end, meaning that whatever you begin with, okay, is where you're headed. So you're going to set, right, Marianne says, exactly, I was going to use that word, set the tone for the day. And I'll tell you something else, okay, just a secret, and it's not a secret. Let's say you want to do pas shacharis, and unless you're committed to it and you forget, Shulamit Michal. So start over at lunchtime. Rebbe Nachman says you can always start over. He gives us carte blanche to start over, free permission. Start over whenever you want. You didn't have it at lunch, do it at dinner, okay? You're gluten intolerant, okay, save it for Shabbos and make it a lot of other brachas. Make a shahakol, okay, like I did at the beginning of this class. It's another very important bracha, okay? I don't know how literally, like it's nice to follow this literally, but use your bring your own ideas to it, okay? When we're saying shahakol, what are we doing? We're blessing Hashem for by His words. Everything was created. What a great reminder for anger. What a great reminder. Oh, right. So everything that's happening is created by Hashem. He's sending me everything. There's no point in getting angry anyway, right? Okay. Okay, so we want to move forward because there's another thing this semester is we're doing shorter classes. So I'm behind again, and so I'm going to try to catch up now. Okay. Okay, this is a good one. Okay. Let me just check off the one that I did here. Okay. A person who doesn't complain about others gains people's respect. We are all, okay, maybe you're not guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. Complaining about someone, they annoyed me, they made me angry, whatever. I'm annoyed and I complain. That is automatic step down. Why do people lose respect for somebody who complains? I'll tell you. Many years ago, I was in college, really a long time ago. Well, I was actually in college not so long ago also, but that was different. Many years ago when I was in college, I had a professor that I really looked up to. She was really brilliant. And she took me out to lunch. I was so excited, okay? And she took me out to lunch, and she proceeded at lunch to vent her venom on the entire department heads, on this one, on that one. I will never forget it. It was like a balloon had been popped. I immediately lost all respect for her. Everything was bugging her. She was angry with everyone. Now, I can't say I learned the lesson that nobody annoys me, because that's ridiculous. Of course I shouldn't be annoyed, but it really did stick with me. And I do try to control it, and it's something we should all try to control. When we have this constant petty anger, and a lot of people do, okay? It diminishes you. It makes you small. It makes you small. And we see this today in the media. We see this manufactured outrage, this constant outrage, and this thing and that thing. And it's almost like the outrage club, okay? And I hear from people, they're so upset about this and they're so upset about that. And, then when something really, you have to be upset about something, we've cried wolf also, okay? When it's time to be angry, sometimes you have to show anger. It's important at certain points to show it without actually necessarily expressing temper. Okay? There are times where you can say this isn't right. Okay? So it diminishes us, this constant manufactured outrage or real outrage or petty complaints that add up and so on and so forth. Again, I don't know. If none of you are guilty of it, then I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me, because occasionally I'm guilty of it. Okay? And if we can look at it and say, okay, this is the Rebbe's telling us that this is common. He's telling us we all have had access to this kind of stuff. We can work through it. We can get rid of it. Okay. Questions? Comments? I think sometimes when we work on these subjects that are, it's easier when you work on Amuna, because everybody wants to say, I have Amuna and here's my situation. I don't expect any confessions here, but if you have any tips, that would be helpful. Okay. Next. Okay, let me see the time. All right. Falsehood. Okay. This is really interesting. Sheker, lies, leads to anger. Okay. Lies leads to anger in two ways. One way I want to explain to you is a later aphorism that the Rebbe says, which is that when somebody looks in the face of a liar, they get angry. When somebody's being lied to, they get angry. It's a very frustrating feeling to be lied to. But if, God forbid, the situation is reverse, it's going to lead to anger against you. God forbid. Okay? And you're going to find yourself in a situation where you have to defend. Conflict comes from these two things, sheker and kas. Two big no-nos. And the amazing thing is that sometimes people live with this reflexively. If you don't think about it, okay, and you weren't taught this as a child, okay, because honestly, a lot of people aren't taught this. So their defense mechanism might be to, I've got to lie to protect myself. Or their defense mechanism might be, I got to get angry because then I'll be in control and I'll be big, okay? If we weren't taught how toxic these things are, and we weren't taught to manage difficult situations, we can get stuck. And it's not just psychological and emotional, it's psychospiritual. Our psychology is our spirituality. Our emotions and the way we think about things and how our feelings and thoughts interact and how they drive us to act, okay? All of these things is really about the neshama. And Rebbe Nachman knows this. And there isn't a corner of our neshama that he doesn't address, which is what's so sweet about allowing him to give us advice. Because there's no need to have that shame that beats you down. All there is the need to be willing to explore honestly, okay, which is why I do my best to admit my faults, even though it's a little embarrassing, okay, because we all have to acknowledge that no one is perfect. No one. And when we get to that place where we can say, I'm not perfect, but boy, Hashem loves me. I have so much so much. Kedusha, I have a neshama, I have a soul that's holy, comes from a holy place. This is my Nakuda Tova. That all these little flaws, Hashem just focuses on the good stuff, and so I can too. Hashem gives me permission to focus on the good stuff. And then the anger, and sheker, the kas, everything just falls away. It falls away. Okay. So, we're trying a shorter format class for this semester. So now I'm going to stop and offer you the chance to make comments, ask questions. Okay. Okay, so we have a question. This question is from Marianne. I'm going to read it out loud. When I do have these feelings of others and I want to complain or I do complain, I have really been trying to find the good in them. It can be hard to complain about someone when I'm looking for the good. Okay, so that's a Zamra. Okay, has everybody here learned a Zamra or are trying to learn a Zamra? Okay, not that I always succeed, but Marianne, you're compulsively honest. That's what I really love about you. Not that I always succeed, but I find it's getting easier. Good job. Okay, so a Zamra also is absolutely an imperative when it comes to working through anger. Okay, because what a Zamra does is it gives us the mechanics of how to work through it. Because anybody who has ever learned a Zamra knows that the Rebbe repeats everything 15 times in 15 slightly different ways, so you have plenty of time to digest it. And then Rebbe Nachman comes along, and he then repeats it with his own insights in his own way, so that we can. So if it didn't go down the first time, it's going to go down this time. Okay, the first 15 times is going to go down the 16th time. Because the mechanics of working through anger, part of that is changing how we see the world, changing how we think about the world, which changes how we connect with the world and changes how we let the world into us. Okay, so good question, good comment. Okay, good observation. Okay, we have another comment. My rabbis taught me to be human is to err. Our goal is not perfection, but accountability. Okay, absolutely. Our goal is not perfection. I mean, certainly not. Our goal is to be responsible and accountable, but I would like to add that our goal is to also be joyful. As I said before, a big chunk of the day, to at least 23 hours out of the day, we should be besimcha. Because if we're dwelling on our flaws or the flaws of others or the flaws of the world, what ends up happening is we're too depressed to connect with Hashem in the way we should. It's a known fact, and the Rebbe explains it in several places, that if you're miserable, you can't daven, you can't talk to God. And that's what we all really need to be doing. And he says that by all rights, we should be talking to God 8-10 hours every day. However, because we might dwell too much on what we need to work on, it might bring us down. He says to limit it to no more than 1 hour a day. And for many of us, that confession, that self-examination should be limited to 10 minutes a day. Seriously, it's enough. It's like a pill. It's like a homeopathic pill. You don't have to take a lot of it. Okay, next, more questions. Michal, I can try and daven for their refuah as they're obviously in pain if they are directing anger towards me. Okay, so if somebody's directing anger towards you, okay, so that's an interesting comment. I'll tell you why. Because yes, we could absolutely, it's very good-hearted to daven for them if they're in pain. Absolutely. But we can also look at, if we're encountering a lot of anger, we can also look at ourselves too and see why we're encountering it. Okay? Because sometimes unwittingly we can be sending messages. So we always look, everything's a mirror for ourselves. Okay? Everything's a mirror for ourselves. If we want the message, we want the lesson, we're going to grab a hold of it and we're going to look in the mirror and see where we're projecting. Okay, there's more questions. Shulamit Michal. I've been trying not to get angry. Oh, but you're such a sweetheart. You know, I can't even imagine. You have such a good, sweet nature. By believing since all's from Hashem, then there must be a lesson I must learn. If something I'm not happy about is happening, also not so easy to do. Okay, so guess what, guys? Something that we're not happy about is always going to happen. Until Mashiach's here, life is going to be up and down. When we put articles and things on the Breslov.org website, which you guys should take a look at because we've redesigned it now. It's much better than it was, and we've incorporated Breslov campus into it, and everything's working together now. Blue Iron Horror. I hope it's working. What we do is we have to tag and categorize things. It's a system of archiving. It's like a librarian, and this enables you to search items, and it also enables the search engine to put things in the right order so that when you type in something, will pop up. Now, one of our constant categories or tags is both. It's called Life's Ups and Downs. That's literally a category in the back end of our website. Life's ups and downs. It's funny, because it's a given. There's always going to be things we're not happy about. And there is always a lesson we can learn. Always. The good thing is we have permission to slack off sometimes and to not feel driven to find a lesson in everything. People need a break. Okay? Shouldn't be too hard on yourself. But when you have the energy to see if there's a lesson for you, kol hakavod, good for you. Okay? And all is from Hashem. That's really the key. Is Amunah is really the key. Okay, we could just, like now, just end the whole semester. Amunah is the key to getting rid of anger, but we have much more work to do. Next question, usually one of my kids, Michal, go with myself. Okay, Ilana. What if it's a kid who doesn't even realize that they are lying? How can you be upset and how can you teach them? Okay, so this is a really good question. You know, without the details, it's a little hard to give what I'm hoping will be a helpful answer. Kids lie for a lot of reasons. One is fear. They're very afraid. They also lie because they fantasize. Okay. And if they feel pressure or uncomfortable in a situation, kids who retreat into daydreams and fantasies sometimes tell untruths. I read something really interesting when I was, trying to get other material about lying, that Rav Pam's mother never used the word lie in the home. If somebody wasn't telling her the truth, she would say, I think maybe that maybe isn't the truth. She would never use the word lie. She was so horrified by the concept. And he said, okay, that helped him become, to really appreciate the horror of a lie, because it wasn't even a word that she could bring herself to utter. You had to hear it from other people, and the beauty of the truth. So it depends on the age of the kid. It depends on a lot of things. Okay, I don't know if any of that was helpful. Okay, Teresa, can you please explain this to me? The will of Hashem will never take you where the grace of Hashem will not protect you. Okay, I can't explain that to you. I would have to see the Hebrew, because I'm not sure if those words are being translated. I can't say that they're probably accurate, but sometimes a few different words are used for will or desire. So, if you can send me in an email the original or the source, then maybe I can help you, because I actually don't know what that means. So, or you could ask maybe Rabbi Greenbaum would know, or maybe Reb Meir Elkabaz would know. Okay. If there are no more questions, we are going to say goodnight. I hope you will all join me next week. I hope you enjoyed the new setup. I have all these new things on the menu and I don't know what they do, so I'm going to play around with them. Oh, I have chat Q&A. Okay, I'll play around with it next week. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. And looking forward to a great semester, everyone. Okay, good night. Take care. Let's see, I don't know how to sign out. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to sign out. Let's see. Oh, I can't figure out how to sign out. Oh, this is so embarrassing. Okay. How do I sign out?